Okay, I would like to welcome everybody to our October gathering. Just a refresher for those of you who have been here before and kind of an introduction to those of you who are new. Our mission is kind of that we are a group of people from very varied spiritual and religious backgrounds, and our goal is to spread love and light in the world and with each other. Before we get started with our service today, we have a few announcements. First of all, there are other groups besides us who meet. The Martins have a group called One World, One Family. The basic idea of their group is Krishna consciousness. If you want more information about that, you can find that group online. Also, the Bennetts have Flowing River Valley Sangha meditation group. It's a Buddhist meditation group. Typically, they meet the first and third Fridays of the month. However, this month they are meeting the second and fourth, if anybody's interested in that. There's also a group from Pittsburgh called the Owl Tribe, and the first through third Friday of every month they have an Owl Tribe gathering in Pittsburgh. Our next gathering will be November 9th, and that will be with Redmond Harris, and she'll be here to talk about spiritual healing. And I'll open it up now in case anybody else has any announcements.
There is globally there's a big event happening in the Christian world. Today Pope Francis received the original statue from Fatima. That Mary is supposed to appear to 3 small children in Fatima and reveal to them mysteries about bringing peace to the world and various things. And today the Pope received that the statue of the famous Mary of Fatima statue. And tomorrow he's going to do a special mass, and at 12 o'clock noon during what is typically known as the Angelus prayer, which is a prayer to Mary, he's going to consecrate the world to her again, and in hopes that it will bring about peace, and that peace will spread throughout the world. So it's a pretty exciting, cool thing that Pope Francis is doing. Because he's bad to the bone. Huh?
Are they broadcasting anywhere you could see?
You probably could.
You'll link us up in that.
I could. I have on my phone an app, the Pope app.
I need that.
Click a button and you can get live feeds of the Pope. So yes, and then you can go online and find it. I'm sure. But it's so exciting. I mean, the fact that this Pope is doing something so, like, involving like something that, like, in this day and age we would consider to be so, like, mysterious and sort of like not in the realm of reality. The fact that he's like making this big thing out of it, it's awesome. So check it out, read more about it. It's very cool. For those of us who lean mystic, it's awesome. Watch out, Leonie, you're right in the way of the video camera.
Does anybody else have any other announcements? No. Okay, our guest for today is Jess Peterson. She's a holistic health coach from Pittsburgh, and she's going to give us some food for thought a little bit later in our gathering. For now, though, what I'm going to talk about is cleaning. And so we often hear the term spring cleaning, but there are other housekeeping issues that we should adhere to. Spring cleaning, while it might make us feel better, it might clear out some clutter, it might well be worth the time, it only lasts for a short season. So what I'm proposing is that we housekeep beyond what others can see and sense, that we housekeep in a way that lasts a little bit longer, and that we don't just dust behind the bookshelves and sweep what we can see, but we cleanse from within. A spiritual cleansing has an encompassing influence that can last an eternity. Let's take out the garbage and not be bitter and get rid of our grievances. Let's get rid of old baggage and forgive our foes and stop fueling the fight induced inside of us. And I'm going to tell a tale, a Cherokee tale, that I'm sure some of you have probably heard at least once, probably more, but I think it has a really good point. And it's An old Cherokee chief was teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside of me," he said to the boy. "It's a terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other wolf is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. This same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too." The grandson thought for a minute and asked the grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old chief simply replied, "The one that you feed." So I'm asking today that we feed our spirituality, we help heal our hurt and not prolong our pain. And it's important not only for us and our feeling from within, but our world without too. Luke 6:45 says, "The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, his mouth speaks." What is going on inside of us will follow outside of us. If you understand this, life will be easier. How we feel and what we do is reflected back to us in reality. Our consciousness creates our canvas. Our mindset will be mirrored back to us. There's another story of two dogs who at separate times enter the same room. One comes out wagging his tail while the other comes out growling. A spectator who saw this went into the room to see what could make one dog so happy and the other so mad. To her surprise, she found a room filled with mirrors. The happy dog found 1,000 happy faces smiling back at him, while the angry dog saw only angry dogs growling back at him. What you see in the world around you is a reflection of who you are. We're playing racquetball with our reality. Like attracts like. Peace within leads to peace without. If we want to change something in our life, we must alter our attitudes to achieve it. The world within creates the world without. The inner governs what goes on outer. Our outer condition correlates to our inner consciousness. Health is the greatest gift, Buddha said. The way is not in the sky, the way is in the heart. That starts within. Similarly, Shakespeare says, "It's not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves." As always, as within, so without. Let's feed our good wolf and watch it grow and relish our own reflections. Now I would like to welcome us all here by sounding the singing bowl. So if you all just take a moment and connect to the vibration and let it bring you to this room. I will now read an opening prayer from the Gnostic prayer book. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace within the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. At this time, I'd like to welcome Jenny to come up. Oh, Matt's going to play a song.
Oh, am I next?
Yeah.
Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor falls, and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. Well, she tied you to a kitchen chair, she stole your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew a hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Maybe I've been here before, seen this place and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you, but I've seen your flag on a marble arch, and love, it's not a victory march, it's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, there was a time when you used to let me know, but now you don't show it to me, do you? Well, I remember, yeah, when I moved in you, and the holy dove was moving too, and every breath we drew was hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot at someone who outdrew you. Well, it's not a cry that you hear at night, it's not someone who has seen the light, it's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was
Thank you.
amazing.
No.
From Mr. Smith to Mrs. Smith.
Okay, I'm going to do
a reading from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Then an old man, a keeper of an inn, said, "Speak to us of eating and drinking." And he said, "Would that you could live on the fragrance of the earth, and like an air plant be sustained by the light. But since you must kill to eat, and rob the young of its mother's milk to quench your thirst, let it then be an act of worship. And let your board stand an altar on which the pure and the innocent of forest and plain are sacrificed, for that which is purer and still more innocent in many. When you kill a beast, say to him in your heart, by the same power that slays you, I too am slain, and I too shall be consumed. For the law that delivered you into my hand shall deliver me into a mightier hand. Your blood and my blood is not but the sap that feeds the tree of heaven. And when you crush an apple in your teeth, say to it in your heart, your seeds shall live in my body, and the buds of your tomorrow shall blossom in my heart. And your fragrance shall be my breath, and together we shall rejoice through the seasons. And in the autumn, when you gather the grapes of your vineyard for the winepress, say in your heart, I too am a vineyard, and my fruit shall be gathered for the winepress, and like new wine I shall be kept in eternal vessels. And in winter, when you draw the wine, let there be in your heart a song for each cup. And let there be a song in the remembrance for the autumn days, and for the vineyard, and for the winepress. It is now my pleasure to get to introduce you to my friend, Jess Peterson. Jess and I have known each other for about 5 years now. We met when our families were going through the adoption process. And so we've had many good times and also some challenging times together. But as soon as I met Jess, we liked her instantly. She's such a positive, fun person to be around that right away we called her a friend. And last year, we kind of got to know Jess in a different way. She was finishing her schooling to become a holistic health coach. And we had kind of been bogged down by the craziness of raising kids and had kind of, I guess our health had gone a direction that we were not happy with. And I went to Jess and I said, I feel like I basically know what I should do, but I need help. Like, I need some guidance, I need some encouragement, I need somebody to kind of help me through this. And she has done such a great job to inspire Matt and I and motivate us, and we have changed so much about our lives. The way in which we nourish our bodies, which in turn nourishes our family, and our friendships and all of our relationships. It's been just such a great journey we've been on for this last year, and I'm so thankful to have had her and to continue to have her. And so I'm really happy for you guys to get to have her today too. So this is my friend Jess.
Thank you. That's my son. Look at my notes.
No, you don't, Mommy. No. N-O.
Oh. Wow.
All right.
I can read it.
No,
Maybe he's going to do the job. He probably could do it, actually.
All right.
Oh, my goodness.
no.
It's funny, if you came here early, you saw that Matt and I were playing guitar, and whenever I play guitar, he also has this reaction because he feels like he is the showman. So he'll come up behind me and he'll start strumming while I'm strumming here. So he probably will want to talk. He may want to talk about this subject, because we talk about this subject a lot, but anyway, sorry for that little crazy time. But thank you, Jenny. My goodness, I'm like practically like welling up talking about me. It's funny because I've been practicing holistic health for about a year now and finished up my schooling around this time last year. And Matt and Jenny were the first people to say I would love to, to work with you. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of fresh and new in all this, but thank you for having that faith in me that, that I can help you. And see you, honey. And when I look back on my whole year, the people that I think have taken the most from the work that I do are Matt and Jenny, because they see the big picture. They see how it affects their family. They see how not only is nutrition important for our health, but for spirituality and all the other parts of our lives too, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So if you've heard of holistic health before, you know it's sort of the coming together of the mind, body, and spirit, and nutrition is one piece of that. And I just have a couple of my little simple visual aids here, but so, you know, if our spirit, our bodies, and our minds are all in balance and working together at that center point, that's health. And that's when we're the healthiest, right there. But this is sort of the general idea of holistic health. And then I sort of take things a step further. And one of the things that I learned in school was this concept of primary and secondary foods. And that's really the primary and secondary foods are sort of the basis for a lot of the work that I do. And let me tell you a little bit about what those things mean. You would think primary foods are the foods that we eat. You would think they were the things that we had for dinner tonight or what we're going to enjoy after our gathering tonight on this lovely table. But actually, the food that we eat is secondary in our lives. The primary foods are things like our spirituality, our career, our physical fitness and our movements, and our relationships. Those are really the primary things in our lives. And when those things are out of balance, then our health becomes out of balance. When those things are out of balance, we tend to have cravings for certain foods. We tend to stress eat. We tend to reach for things that we know aren't the best for us. And we all know when we put something in our mouth and think about it that it's not necessarily healthy for us. But we do that because there may be something else going on in our lives. It's not because we don't want to eat healthfully. It's because our primary foods may be out of balance. And so that's what holistic health, when I come at holistic health, that's sort of the way I come at it. We look at all these other parts of our lives and we say, what could be affecting our food? What could be affecting how we're feeling? What could be affecting our health? And then we apply nutrition as the next step. And those are our secondary foods. So again, it's probably really hard for you guys to see all this. Around here it says spirituality, career, physical fitness, relationships. And in the middle, secondary, are our foods. Our grains and vegetables, fruits, oils, proteins, and water, all the things that we should be eating every day. Those are just really secondary. The graph. Some of you guys have seen this already. I've actually worked with some of you before, so it's pretty exciting to actually get to meet you in person, Heather. So I'm going to talk, in addition to this whole concept of primary foods, my other sort of philosophy about holistic health is mindfulness. When you hear the word mindfulness, what do you guys think of? You can just shout it out to me. Anyone mindfulness?
Carrie Bennett.
Yes.
She's big on Buddhism.
You think of Buddhism? Yeah. Yeah, being present, exactly.
She's big, she's small.
Buddhism. Yeah. Mindfulness is definitely a major principle of Buddhism. If anyone else here studies Buddhism, mindfulness is really important. It's funny, when I think of mindfulness, I also think of being present, living in the now, focusing, paying attention to sort of what's going on around us. So I thought I would go and Google the word mindfulness. And Google actually has two definitions for mindfulness. The quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. So, you know, if you're mindful of how you're feeling, you're kind of aware of how things make you feel. Or this is sort of where holistic health comes in, the second definition. A mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations used in a therapeutic technique. So, for me, mindfulness and nutrition really play an important role in holistic health. Because if we're not mindful about how we feel when we eat food, or mindful about how we're actually eating the food or who we're eating the food with, then it's just the act of eating. It's just the act of, you know, putting enough energy in our bodies to move and to live. But really, if we're mindful about what we eat, we can pay attention to how that food feels. And for example, if you have a dairy intolerance, you may not know that dairy causes major sinus inflammation. You may think you have seasonal allergies, and you just live your whole, you know, every season with your nasal spray or, you know, your medication, not knowing that this is all brought on by dairy. You might not know that unless you take that dairy out of your diet, and then you see if those things change, you add it back in and see if they come back. And that's sort of the act of being mindful. If you have arthritis and you eat a lot of nightshade vegetables are things like tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant. Those all cause inflammation in the joints and may give you, you know, arthritic symptoms. You may think you need to take ibuprofen, but really if you took those those nightshade vegetables out of your diet for a period of time, you may notice that your joints feel much better. So this is another, like this is an aspect of being mindful when we eat. So a few things about mindfulness: what you eat, where you eat, how you eat, and who you eat with. Those are all ways to be mindful through nutrition and the ways that you eat. And so I just want to step back. I want to thank Sarah and Jenny too for the pieces that you read today. It really pulled this whole thing together about the cleaning, about paying attention and keeping the good in and getting rid of the bad, and being mindful. If you're going to take from the earth, let's be mindful and think about, and honor those foods as we eat them. That's part of being mindful too. So, like I said earlier, one way you can determine about mindfulness is determine how that food makes you feel. And we can do a couple different things. You can determine how it feels by just paying attention and seeing how that food feels when you eat it. Or you can do it in an elimination diet. And Jenny and Matt have both been in my cleanse groups, as have Carrie and Heather. And an elimination diet is where you take a certain period of time, typically it's a 21-day period of time, and we take foods out. We eliminate foods. So we eliminate dairy, things that are common allergens: dairy, gluten, sugar, caffeine, red meat. We do, for a period of time, we do a vegan diet with no gluten and no dairy and no sugar, no caffeine. And then after a three-week period, we slowly add those things back in. So at week 4, if you want to test dairy, if you feel fabulous after taking yourself off of those 3 things, you may not want to even do a test. You might say, I don't even miss cheese. I'm not even gonna, who says that? I don't know, but I miss cheese. I don't eat dairy anymore, but I miss cheese. But you may say, I feel great, I'm not going to even bother. Or you may say, I really miss, Italian bread. I'm going to test wheat and slowly add some stuff back in and see how I feel. Some common issues with gluten are digestive issues, foggy-headedness, inability to concentrate, IBS, all sorts of things are gluten-related. For me, when I first found out that I had issues, and I did an elimination diet, it was 2005. My husband and I were having fertility issues. We went to see a naturopathic doctor. She took me off of gluten and dairy and sugar and all these things, the common allergens that I take people off of. And suddenly, all of my fertility symptoms started to go away, and my body actually started to work in ways I never had. And I was 35 years old, and I had never had a regular cycle. And from then until now, I have, and it's because I took all of those things out of my diet that were causing inflammation in my body and not allowing my body to work the way it was supposed to. So that's one way to determine how you can be mindful about eating, is taking food out, doing an elimination, see how it makes your body feel, and really pay attention. So when you're doing that elimination diet, you can pay attention and be mindful of how your body feels, but then when you add that food back in, that's when you really have to be quiet and listen and focus and see how your body is reacting. Another way is to determine where you eat. Where are you eating? If you're eating on the run, do you eat at your desk? Do you eat in your car? It's very hard to be mindful and appreciative of the food you're eating when you're behind the steering wheel or when you're in front of a computer. It's very hard to be mindful of the food that you're eating and to be able to pay attention to how that food's making you feel. So where you eat is interesting, and also how you eat. Are you rushed? Are you stressed? Are you, the kid's back in the car and the dog's back there and everything's loud, and those things can affect your ability to be mindful about the food you're eating. And then finally, it's who you're eating with. If you find that your family sits down to the dinner table and has a meal together at least 3 or 4 times a week, that's wonderful to take that time and to be mindful. There's a wonderful book by a woman named Lori David. If anybody knows Lori David, her husband was the producer of a show on, it's gonna does anyone know who I'm talking about? Lori David's husband? It's gonna leave my brain. Mm-hmm. Someone online will know. But Lori David's husband is a comedian. He works with Seinfeld.
Larry David.
Oh, Larry David. There you go. So Larry,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Larry
So Larry
David.
David's wife wrote a book called The Family Dinner, and it's or The Family Table. Anyone have that book? It's a wonderful book. Anyway, it really teaches you about mindfulness. It really is trying to bring families back to the dinner table, about being mindful about eating together and eating in gatherings. So how wonderful is that? And I often tell people, and they think that when I say I want to talk to you about who you're eating with, they think I'm maybe all critical. Like, don't eat with people that are going to the bar and eating fish sandwiches. No, Sort of just the contrary, if you have the opportunity to go out and eat with friends, and eat and laugh and have wonderful conversation and enjoy yourself, you should go. Even if, for example, for myself, I don't eat gluten and I don't eat dairy. So if someone asking me to go out for pizza or Italian food gives me like a pause. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. But it would be better for my health if I did, even if the only thing I could eat would be a piece of pizza. If I don't have an allergy to gluten and dairy, I just know I have an intolerance, and maybe the next day I drink a lot of lemon water and try to like cleanse my liver out and do some other things to make myself feel better. If I could go there, order something else on the menu, maybe they had something else for me. But being in that group of people, having a conversation, laughing, lowering my my blood pressure, having fun, that's so much better than me sitting at home eating a salad by myself while my son plays Wii and my husband's at work. Like that would be a much better situation for me. So occasionally enjoying yourself, eating something maybe you're not necessarily, it's not like maybe the best for you, but eating with people that make you feel good, support you and lift you up and make you feel fabulous, that is also good for your health. So it's not always about trying to be a purist and a perfectionist about the foods that we eat. It's also about allowing yourself. I use this word allowing a lot, allowing yourself to enjoy food and being in a group like this. And to say there's something on the table that I might not necessarily always eat, I'm gonna eat it tonight. I'm gonna eat whatever's over there because this group is fabulous. So that's a big part of it, allowing yourself to enjoy food. And then, majority of the time, there's this concept of the 90-10 diet. 90% of the time, you eat the things make you feel great. And 10% of the time, you enjoy yourself and you have that cake if you want to have that cake. So now that I talk about mindfulness in that way, do any of you have a practice or something that you do on a regular basis that you find to be sort of a mindful way of living? It doesn't have to necessarily have to be eating, but do you? Soccer, see? When you play soccer, are you really focused and like in the moment? Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody else have anything? Folks over here, Jen?
I've been trying to be much more mindful about like during food preparation, thinking about like being thankful for it, thinking about those that I'm journeying for. It's almost like putting a little prayer in.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. And that's another thing about nutrition. It's not just the act of having the food on the table and eating it. It's the act of actually preparing the meal. Prior to 2005, when I changed the way I ate, and sort of that was the catalyst for me to go back to school and focus on holistic health and help other people sort of see that. And initially I wanted to do infertility and work just with infertility clients because I saw how amazing it was that I was able to change my own fertility with food.
What?
To be able to prepare food, I was never very good at it. I was great at boiling pasta and like buying bagels and spreading some stuff on it. Like that was my skill. Luckily Isaac came along after that, so he actually gets to eat some real food now. But the concept of real food was never really part of my vocabulary. I never really thought so much about what I was eating and how I was cooking and even how to cook. And now it's a huge part of my life. And so the actual process of making the food is also can be very mindful and a very spiritual experience too. So I'm going to just shift to one other quick topic, and then I can either open up for questions or we can just move on to the next phase of gathering. Yeah, questions are good. So like I said, prior to 2005, when I changed my diet, I was not mindful. I was really not mindful about life in general. I was not mindful, certainly, about what I was eating. And it took me to go see a naturopath and have all these things taken out of my diet to realize that my body could change. And even though I felt a little different, I felt kind of even keel. Because I was a big sugar eater, so I would have like a lot of sugar spikes throughout my day. I love my sugar, and I love my white carbs. And so that was pretty much the bulk of my diet. When I changed my diet, I immediately felt this calm, like that I'd never felt before. I was 35 and I never had felt calm before. I'm like, inner calm. I'm like, what is this feeling? This is amazing. But I didn't, that was the main thing that I could feel. But the biggest changes for me were happening inside, and I couldn't feel those things changing. They were just changing. And I could tell by my fertility, by what was going on in my body, that those things were changing. Some people, like my husband, who was sitting in that corner, so I intervened, he has this amazing ability to eat something and immediately know it makes him feel unwell. He will eat a pepper, a green pepper. He cannot eat any peppers. If he eats a pepper, he's down for the count. he never had an allergy test. He doesn't know if he's actually allergic to them. He just knows peppers do not agree with him. Orange juice makes him foggy-headed. It makes him feel just out of it. I'm like, how could orange juice? Orange juice is great for everyone. Well, recently, I have been feeling like there's something out of balance with me, and I can't figure it out, because when I look at this picture of my primary foods, they're all really in a great place. I feel like I'm in balance in every part of my life. Why does my food feel out of balance? And I couldn't figure it out. And I think I eat so healthfully. And so I was speaking with a friend who's going to school, who went to the same school that I went to. And we were talking about what does she do with her clients, what are the protocols that she uses for her clients that she's getting success. And she started to talk to me about the blood type diet. Has anyone ever heard of this? The blood type diet? Yeah. So the diet's called the blood type diet. There's a book called Eat Right for Your Blood Type, and I actually have it in my bag, which I will pull out a little bit if anyone wants to see it. But I just ordered the book. I just started to dive into it, and it has basically three types of food for each blood type. Do you guys know your blood type, by the way? Anyone know their blood type? Anyone an A? O positive. O positive? O positive also? Oh, okay. Oh, A. Okay. A and O are very common. O is the oldest blood type, and A is sort of when agriculture started to happen, the A's started to develop. And then there's AB. Anyone's an AB, and there's B. Well, I know a lot about A because over the past week I've just started to dive into the A blood type because that's mine and my husband's. And I was shocked to see of these, they break food down to 3 groups. The beneficials, which are basically medicinal to your body. The neutrals, which are basically just food. You can just eat them for nourishment, but they don't fix your body or harm your body. And then there are the avoids, and the avoids are basically poison to your body. And when I looked at my avoids, I was shocked because bananas are a part of my avoid. And I was eating a banana every day in my smoothie, every day, from January until 2 weeks ago, every day, a banana. And I thought, this is right, maybe that banana is what's throwing me off. And then cashews. Cashews are a big part of my diet too, because I usually take a handful of cashews and throw them in my smoothie too, because I like to get a decent amount of protein in my smoothies. Cashews were an avoid for me. It says cashews could potentially act like poison in my body. So now I'm revamping everything that I'm doing, and for the past week, I haven't had, maybe 2 or 3 times, had like a little bit of something that is in my avoid group. But trying to really focus on those eating more beneficials, just to see if this particular diet works for me. I'm just fascinated by it, because right now there's something off, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is. So it's very interesting that my husband is very mindful. He can put something in and immediately know if it agrees with him. I need someone to tell me. I need it to be like written out, because for me, I thought everything I was doing was great. I lost a little bit of weight at the beginning of the year. I had gained some at Christmas, and I started to cleanse in January with Matt and Jenny and Carrie, and then I lost about 10 to 12 pounds, and I've been there. And that's where I need to be. I'm at, ideal weight, feel good. All that stuff is in place. Something else is off within me. So maybe the next time I come talk to you guys, I can talk more about the blood type diet, because I'm hoping it works for me. But it's just one way. I have to really focus now over the next month and listen really, really intently to my body. Is this right for me? And it may not be. It might not be right for me. There's this whole concept of bio-individuality. What works for me may not work for you, may not work for you, might work for Matt. So we're all very different. And some of us need meat, some of us need a plant-based diet. But for me, I need to figure it out. And I still, after, having graduated a year ago and lived this, sort of this holistic life since 2005, still don't know exactly what's perfect. And that's okay. None of us have to be perfect. We don't have to be a purist. But it would be nice to just feel like this whole thing is in balance for me. Anyone else feel like they maybe have a little imbalance that needs to be tweaked?
Yeah.
Well, my spiritual part is feeling really good today. My spiritual bucket is filled, as we say in my house. Anyone have any questions about any of this? I feel like I just took a topic and went, yeah?
Interesting you said, knowing my son, my middle one, has all the allergies, but there's things that he's not like allergic to, and he knows like bananas he can't eat, carrots he can't eat. There's certain things that he's been tested for that aren't allergens, but he knows like he can't eat something that has those in it because
he feels off.
Yeah, well, and then he even feels like he's having allergic symptoms, but he's not technically allergic to. He's really tuned.
mucus producing too.
It makes his throat like burn and things. I don't know. It's really crazy.
So it's like upper respiratory.
Yeah, and so like he's just like, I can't eat that, and people are like, I'm like, listen, the kid's got enough allergies. He just knows he can't eat that, and he knows. Like we're like, no, that's not right. So.
Yeah, And I mean, our bodies can be intolerant or sensitive to something without being full-blown allergic to something.
Right.
And that's like me with wheat. I know that gluten doesn't agree with my body. I've had a celiac test, it was negative. And I know that I don't have an allergy to wheat, but I know that when I eat it, my digestive tract reacts and I get bloated. And it's funny, I used to joke a lot about using wheat and dairy and sugar as my birth control. Because when I found out that when I take those things out, my body was actually working, because I didn't want to have to give it up. I'm like, I don't want to have to give this stuff up, you know? And I didn't think about the fact that it can negatively affect my body. It can make me sick if I eat those things, even if I'm not allergic to them. And so now, well, thank you. How'd you know I needed that? Thank you so much. So you can be intolerant to something without being allergic. And sometimes when you're intolerant, that you don't necessarily feel it on the outside or see it on the outside, but stuff is going on the inside of that. You know, it doesn't come out in breathing, but it comes out in inflammation in your gut or in other parts of your body. And like for me, my reproduction wasn't necessarily on par.
I did the exact dairy thing you said.
Did you?
Yeah, I was taking Zyrtec and Singular every single day. And I have cats, and I am allergic to cats. But it wasn't that. Like, I realized I hadn't eaten it for like a week, and I wasn't, it was longer than that. And then I was like, I'm not taking my allergy medicine. And I will occasionally have like dairy, like small amounts on little things that but I don't like, I was like a hard Italian cheese and bread girl. And like that could be my meal. And I don't do that. And I'm there's a little bit of seasonal stuff right now, but just because the weather changed, but it was a huge difference. Like I could not function like if I did, and we don't even do dairy, like cow milk or, you know, dairy butters in our house. It was just from the amount of cheese that I was doing on things or dairy products in other things. So it was a big difference.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'm not dairy free, but I notice if I eat cheese and I don't eat ice cream very often, we just don't buy it that much, but mostly cheese. I'll wake up in the morning and my ears feel blocked. And I remember at a point in the past where we did raw foods, completely raw foods, except for a little bit of chocolate.
They do have raw chocolate, you know.
Well, we didn't have raw chocolate. Chocolate wasn't going.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Not heaps of chocolate, but just you know, something I wasn't going to take out. My hearing cleared completely.
Wow.
I was beginning to think I had like a hearing problem, some hearing damage in one ear, particularly. And as far as food and how it makes you feel and how it can have a big effect, my son was diagnosed with celiac disease when he was 9. And I think the way that he got sick from having an autoimmune disease to gluten was very insidious. Because when we look back at baby photographs and he was like a chubby, energetic 3 and 4-year-old, couldn't stop him climbing trees and jumping off things and just full of energy. Somewhere between that and about 7, he just withered away practically. He was below the 3rd centile, but it wasn't, you know, he wasn't throwing up, he wasn't having, you know, those kind of things. But by the time he was 7, we knew something was really seriously wrong with him, and started looking for answers with that, and had a lot of testing. And finally found on endoscopy that he had damage to the villi. But it was enough that the doctor looked at it and said he sees changes. He came out of the procedure and he said he sees changes. Sent it to pathology, and I guess someone suggested that a celiac pathologist should have been the one to look at it. I wanted us to send it on to a more specialized pathologist, because they gave him the all clear. They told him it was all negative. They told us it was all negative, even though the doctor had seen, you know, visual side of it changes. But after going down through a list of more and more rare disorders like Shwachman-Diamond syndrome and pancreatic disorders, to the point where the doctor was tearing his hair out because he's about to move jobs to Johns Hopkins, and within I'd say 2 days of being gluten-free, most of his digestive problems were gone and his weight just started to climb. because they were at the point where they were going to put him on feeding tubes, nasogastric tubes at night, and yeah.
How's
so
he doing now?
He's great. He's great. He had a growth delay, so puberty didn't hit until later, maybe a year and a half, 2 years later than it might have done. But everything's caught up. He's taller. He's doing great. He's doing great. The only problem is the bone loss. He's osteopenic from 9 years old. So we're just hoping that the testosterone can give him some protective, rather than if it was one of the girls, maybe are gonna like have a natural, like bone loss when they get older.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that you were able
Yeah.
to determine that 2 days you noticed a change.
Oh, huge! Like the digestive discomfort was gone. And he was depressed. He had zinc deficiency. He had noise sensitivity. He had lack of appetite, stomach pain. I think I said lethargy. Just not the same child that he used to be. So
Wow. I'm glad you figured that out.
yeah, he's 15 and a half now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we took my son off of gluten in January, and we did it because he has some sensory processing issues, and I'd done some research on gluten and sensory processing, and he doesn't have celiac that we know of. He hasn't been tested, but the change in him, he may not have witnessed it here tonight, but the change in him being off of gluten has been really tremendous. His teachers noticed a major change in his ability to focus and pay attention. Being off of gluten the second half of preschool last year compared to the first half, they said this is a different child, And he wasn't gaining weight either. One of the things with gluten is you don't absorb the nutrients in your food, and so you could be eating a whole lot of food, but if you have a gluten intolerance or if you have celiac, the food doesn't get the nutrients don't get absorbed into your body the way they should, and so the inability to gain weight is a huge issue. And with my son, he probably gained about a pound in a year. And then this year, he just turned 5, and we just had his checkup, and he gained 5 pounds between last year and this year. So it was a big change for him to be able to put 5 pounds on. His son is a skinny little guy, but he's starting to bulk up. It is a big difference. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you give us some sort of or some ideas for being able to get through difficult times as far as willpower? I know like the mindful thing, but are there other techniques, like if we are like in a situation where, I had this all laid out just a couple minutes ago in my mind. Now I can't remember what I was trying to say. Like, there are periods of time where I'm going fine, everything's going well. Then it's like the floodgates open up. Right? And I know that you mentioned that there could be things going on in your life that will reflect your eating. Your eating pattern will be a reflection of that. So, are there certain techniques that you can give us, or ideas that you can give us that will allow us to hone in on what those scenarios could be in our lives that are negatively impacting our ability to stay on track with our eating? When I go into the kitchen and I'm like standing in front of the cabinet and I'm eating something as I'm like trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to eat, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I know mentally, what are you doing? I mean, you shouldn't be, this is not good. But I can't stop and walk away, you know what I mean? But then, like, I can't point to anything in my life that would be the cause of that. How could we go about mentally breaking down situations in our lives and trying to hone in on that problem that's causing the eating problem?
That's like the secret of life or something.
Can you tell me the secret of life, please?
Because I would love to know that too. I mean,
You
I
should speak up for camera.
Yeah.
Tell us the secret of
yeah, I wish I knew the
No
secret of life. Because that is a hard one. It's hard to determine what aspect of your life is causing you to go to that cabinet, Are you asking me what are the examples of situations in your life that might cause
No,
that?
no, no.
Or are you asking
I'm
me,
asking
how do I
like,
deal with that
you
when
know,
I'm standing there?
are there like certain techniques that you can use, like say,
Like drink a huge glass of water.
drink
Yeah.
a huge glass of water? I mean, I'm talking more
What
like
do you
things
say
like
about protein? Like
journaling.
sometimes I will like think, okay, I need to just eat some almonds and drink a bunch of water. My body like needs some sort of like protein or something right
Yeah.
now, and to give me fuller feeling and with water, and then just walk away from it and see.
Yeah, there are a couple things. Like that's one thing that I do too. I always, if I'm like traveling is a big one where you, if you're going to be in a car all day or something where you tend to reach for things that you shouldn't have, or like you said, late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do this thing at my house called the Scooby snack. It's like a spoonful of almond butter or a spoonful of peanut butter. We call that the Scooby snack. And it's actually okay at night to have something like that because the protein in those nuts will help you sleep. If you have any sleeping issues too, that can help you sleep. But for me, it's nuts or nut butter and water.
I was thinking more of like, you know, like keeping a journal to see.
Well, you can do that. I mean, there are a
You
lot
know
of
what I
things
mean?
you
I'm
can,
thinking more of like how can
not
you,
what to eat, but
not what to eat and like how do I, like I know, you know, I know all the, here's what I should be doing.
Mhm.
It's when I am conscious of what I should be doing and I choose to not do it.
Yeah, I do that too.
Um,
I understand.
how do I get to the heart of why I choose to not do it? I mean, is journaling a good idea? Like
I think
say,
journaling is a wonderful
I've been
idea.
feeling down this week and then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, from having like a little depression, I find myself in front of the couch. You know what I mean?
Journaling is a wonderful thing to do. And have you ever heard of morning pages? Has anyone ever heard of morning pages?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a book called The Artist's Way, and the author's name is Cameron, I think is the last name.
I've forgotten her name.
Yeah, and she talks about morning pages. And morning pages are when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, you can get your tea or your lemon water, whatever you do in the morning if you have like a ritual that you do in the morning. Or you can just get right up out of bed and go somewhere with a piece of paper, just a sheet of paper and a pen, and just start writing. And it just is a stream of consciousness. It doesn't need to have periods or punctuation or anything. You just write. And that, oftentimes, that type of writing can pull out things that are sort of keeping you back or like, you know, that may be holding you back or causing this type of late night eating or whatever the
Whatever
cravings
situation.
hit.
Yeah.
So morning pages are a nice thing to do. Journaling is a nice thing to do. Any kind of spiritual practice, meditation, anything where you know, you can be quiet with yourself and sort of pay attention to what's going on and what might be feeling off for you. If you do know that one of these areas of, you know, exercise or relationship or spirituality or your career, if you know there's something with your work that's frustrating you, or if you know that maybe you haven't had a chance to get out and take a walk or do yoga or do something in the last week, those could be the obvious things that could be bothering you. You know? Or if you haven't had a date with your wife in a month and you would like to have some time with her,
She's going
then,
like,
then that could be an obvious one too. Like not
Yeah.
having made the time for the person in your life that's really important.
uh-huh.
It doesn't take journaling to get to that, the root
Yeah.
of that, you know.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But if it's something, if everything is in place, like I was saying before about myself, I feel like everything is in a really good place right now and something is off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, I spent the month of September leading a fertility cleanse. And I had 8 women in my group. They were amazing women. They all made these really tough changes to their diets. They did really well. They saw improvements in their fertility. And all the while they were doing it, I was eating chocolate. Like I was eating chocolate, or I'd be like, I'd call my husband, just order some paneer. I just want some paneer. You know, and like I knew I shouldn't have dairy. Dairy does not agree with me. And I just wanted to have, although in the blood type diet it says the one kind of dairy I can't have is paneer, so I must have known. I was pretty psyched about that. But I just wasn't following along. And I think subconsciously, I did not want to improve my fertility. That's the last thing I want to do. You know, there's a baby waiting for me in Ethiopia that I need to go pick up, and the last thing I want to do is, you know, get pregnant, and then that would put the kibosh on that. So, I did everything, and I would say to myself as I was, you know, eating the chocolate bar with ginger in it because that was good for my digestive system. That why am I putting the kibosh on all this work that I've done? From January until the end of August, I was eating cleanly. Also in September, I drank coffee again for the first time. And a lot of it, not me, for me a lot of it was like probably 5 cups in the whole month of September, but that was enough to cause a lot of problems. in my body, a lot of pain. I have fibrocystic breasts, and my breasts are fibroids in them, and they're really painful. And the only time it really hurts is when I have caffeine. And I spent the month of, like, I was drinking green tea again. I was doing all this caffeine, and I was feeling miserable. Well, I had this group of lovely women all like feeling amazing, and I was like, you know, they were being lifted up, and here I am behind my computer going, you know, doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I knew, but that was a rough place for me. Like the whole concept of fertility was hard. So I'm like, I don't want that to be good. I'm gonna just eat.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that too when you're eating. You know, it's hard to do it in the moment while you're eating, but then if you step back and say, where in this circle am I off?
Yeah.
That could be it. And if it's none of those things, then like you said, journaling could be good. Meditation could help. You know, writing.
Okay.
Or
thanks.
talking to me, talking to your lovely bride,
Yeah.
talking to your friends, talking to the people here.
Right.
That would help, you know. Because especially when, one of the quotes, there's a quote that I love that says surround yourself with people that lift you up. Surround yourself with people that lift you higher, you know. And that's what this group is. So if you surround yourself with these people and you're feeling bad and you're still in the kitchen doing your thing, which we all do, then, you know, it's a good time to open up and talk to somebody about it.
Great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
I feel like that was a really long answer, but
No, it's a perfect answer. Exactly what I needed. Perfect.
thank you. Would anyone else like to ask a question, or we could eat, or I don't know what's last. Is there like a final?
I think Sarah has a couple other things she needs to do here.
All
Can
right.
I ask
well,
you something?
You sure can.
Yeah, the time factor. I mean, you know, I know as far as, you know, healthy foods, you know, what to eat and what not to eat. And, I find that cooking from scratch, which, you know, cuts out all the processed stuff, and I'm at a point now where I find that the thought of the time involved cooking from scratch, you know, peeling veggies, chopping stuff, you know, the different stages of making a meal for 9 of us from scratch is so overwhelming that I'm more often than not choosing not to do it. And I'm thinking that the times when I do put the time into that, the other stuff like the laundry or dishes or even clearing the table to eat the food, or, you know, other stuff goes by the wayside.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I can't do everything, and somehow along the way, food prep and eating at the kitchen table, which we did for years. Like there was never any question about not sitting at the table for dinner.
Right.
But somehow, probably about 1.5 years ago, that just went out right out the window.
And what changed 1.5 years ago?
Well, I have a daughter who's she'll be 2 on November 2nd.
Okay, well there you go.
I know looking back, I've had periods of postpartum, some postpartum depression, but more postpartum anxiety. And so that's hard. Yeah, just busy,
Yeah.
still nursing, tired a lot of the time. And just, the thought of making anything from scratch
Yeah.
is pretty overwhelming.
Do you get help in the kitchen from anyone else at home? Any of the kids like to cook? Or
Mostly I
spouse?
throw up my hands and Bala makes the dinner, my husband makes the dinner. Because somehow he doesn't have the mental clutter of the time coordination thing.
How are his skills?
Great, excellent.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful cook.
Then, could you delegate some recipes to him? Could
Well,
you-
some of my kids are great in the kitchen too. It just has become one of those things where my kids have been helping with a local organic farmer and working at his farm stand. And so Tuesday night and all day Wednesday, they're volunteering their time, and we're getting this reciprocation of boxes and boxes and boxes of wonderful veggies. And I'm inside screaming. On the outside, I'm saying thanks. On the inside, I'm going, help! Take them away!
They're gonna all go back like the
I
Christmas
know,
drawer.
it's just, it's like, when you know what you should be doing and you're not doing it, combined with, well, how do I even start again to do that? I love to cook. I'd love to be making things from scratch, or, but it's gone past the tipping point of, like, if I do that, then nothing else is.
I'll ask a question, and then I'm gonna ask the Smiths too what they do, because I know that they, and Carrie too, what you guys do to achieve that kind of balance. But I was telling my husband recently, I said, I would love a weekend where you guys cook for me, because I cook almost every night except when I do that frantic call, go to Taj Mahal and pick up some Indian food, you know, on the way home from work. Yeah, we live really close to it. And I have my nights where dinner is really simple. You know, I roast a vegetable, or fresh food is wonderful, and having all that food from the organic farm is great. But frozen food, especially organic frozen vegetables, are fine to use. And I encourage people who don't eat any vegetables at all to start there, you know, to use if buying food that's frozen, or there's like a company called Seeds of Change, and they make a brown rice and a quinoa that comes in a packet that you can microwave, but it's actually brown rice and quinoa. Yeah, I put mine in the basement for a long time. And then,
It's the volume of food that's needed.
It is.
That's become overwhelming
yeah, and
for so many of us.
could you pick even like a day or 2 days, like a Sunday or a week, a day, whatever day is the least stressful for you, and cook a couple of things, like casseroles that can feed 9, and that you can freeze, and then that way throughout the week you'll have fresh food and options that things that you made just days before, and it doesn't take a long time. You just have to heat those up in the oven. I often tell my clients, have a cooking day. Have a shopping day and have a cooking day.
I have a friend who does that. Maybe I should tell her.
I talk to her about it.
Her and her husband will have the cooking day.
Yeah, you have a cooking day, and it's nice to have a weekend. It's nice that your husband likes to cook, because that's something you can do together. You can both enjoy. That would be a part of your primary food too, as part of your relationship, to have that.
Yeah.
Encourage the kids at some point. Maybe have a day where the kids get involved in the cooking.
Yeah.
Do you ever have more of those vegetables than you really need, or you need it for the whole 9 that the farmer sends?
No, it's not. It's getting used. It's not getting thrown out. But it's sometimes.
So you might be able to do a trade of taking some to that lady that cooks ahead. Have her use some for herself and some make your casserole too.
That's a cool idea.
Take her vegetables and say, something
Yeah.
good, something good, and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
She'll get fresh
Mm-hmm.
food and get a casserole.
I love that idea.
She'll make too.
Well, she's good at it, so that's something she's good at. Yeah.
And so if you, I have friends that have like food clubs where there are like 5 of them, and they all rotate. Like every 2 weeks they'll make like 5 of something, and then they'll all share. So then they each have 5 different meals. So you make like 5 of the same casserole, and your friend would make something different, and then all of a sudden you have meals for a week, and it's all you share. It's like a sort of a cookie exchange that I fear that are coming up soon. The dreaded cookie exchange. But it's real food. It's meals, and then you share those. And some cooking clubs do it on a monthly basis. Some do it on a weekly basis. So if you have friends close by that like to cook, maybe they could help out. But I think if you and your husband can work out a day where you do that together, that would be great.
I think one thing that Jenny and I had done since we started the fund, and I don't do it as religiously as I know she does, is the planning meals, like meal planning, like on a calendar. And I write mine in pencil because I rearrange it all the time. But I know for Jenny, because she's super busy and in and out. And for me, it helps because we kind of get into the rut of eating the same 3 meals because my kids can make them. So if you sit down, and a lot of times, like if you're gonna get this kind of vegetable for that coming week, then you can like maybe plan the meals and have multiple, like prep all the stuff and keep it and use it for the different meals, or make sure that leftovers from one day might work into a meal on the other day. Or so you don't have to stress about getting to, oh my gosh, it's time for dinner, but we don't know what we're eating today. No one has an opinion. We don't have anything. It's kind of like, nope, today's tacos. Like, no one has a choice because that's what's on the calendar. And we've done it a lot. And the kids are like, well, we want this. I'm like, no, the calendar says we're doing this. That's 3 days from now. And so you just kind of have like a plan. And you have so many kids. You can have the kids chop vegetables. Shia loves to peel carrots for random reasons, like no reason. Like we always have peeled carrots because she's like, I'm gonna peel carrots. So I make I only have 3 kids, and I make them do stuff, I'll be like, okay, you need to chop this, you need to do this, I'm gonna do this, and then when everybody's doing it, like,
That solves all my problems, because now I'm just thinking when I give my kids carrots to peel, the carrots get peeled and then processed, nom nom nom. Throw in some apples and plain yogurt with a little bit of honey on it, and then they've
your
eaten.
boys love, I mean, your boys
already
cook at my house constantly,
good.
so like, I think
Yeah,
that
they
you
like
could
to
be
cook.
like, okay, boys, on Thursday night, you guys have to cook and let's make this, or, you know, on Friday, the girls' is turn to cook, and I'll, you know, you help them, or I'll help them, but you
Yeah.
can say like, this is the plan for the week, or anybody have a suggestion, what do you wanna make? Josh always wants pad thai, so that's always in the rotation, but like, if you have a plan, you don't freak out as much if everybody's
Well, I have the
rushed in.
plan in here, like the plan was to use the 3 big bags of beet that are in the crisper drawer, and nobody else really, like, certain things, like if I just know what I'm doing, I'm the one that's gonna have to do it. If I get tied up, if it's not a recipe that Evan's inspired, my oldest is 17, he loves to cook, if it's not what he's inspired to do, and he's great, I mean, he's cooked at your house for everybody, he can handle cooking. But my husband, if it's something he's not familiar with, so I had a recipe for a Russian borscht, so I was gonna make that, and I had the recipe and we had all the ingredients, but then it gets to dinner time, and I'm nursing the baby, and my 4-year-old has his hand up my sleeve rubbing my arm, and I, you know, it's like that'll do, you know, that'll be tomorrow, because to, you know, sit on the sofa nursing a baby with a 4-year-old rubbing your arm and trying to say, you know, somebody else make your way through this recipe and do it.
Well, you could do, like, if you
It's
know
just,
at
you know,
dinner
it
time
doesn't-
she's
it's-
gonna wanna nurse, you could always make dinner at lunch.
She wants to nurse
That's
all
what
the-
I was gonna
It's
say.
way.
Just in the last week or two, first of all, let me say, the meal planning has been imperative to us eating healthy food, because if I don't do that, then you fall back on the quick and easy, which is like a box of macaroni and cheese, and then there you're done, you know? So if I don't plan ahead, then our box of goodies doesn't get used, you know, the produce goes bad, and we haven't eaten a variety of food, because we can't have macaroni and cheese every day. But something that I've been trying to be better at, I mean, I try to have food days sometimes, but we're so busy, it's few and far between. I celebrate when I get them, but it doesn't happen a lot. But I had a couple of days last week where I got out of work like a half an hour early, and I could go up to the kids' school and stand around and chit chat with the other moms, but instead I stopped at home and took 20 minutes to chop beets, you know, or whatever it was, so that when dinner time came, all I had left to do was throw it in, mix this, add seasoning, down, you know. Or like the other night, I was exhausted, but we had to sit up and do the bills, and you know, it's getting late and I'm so tired. I had acorn squash that had to be used because I didn't want them to go bad. So I went ahead and boiled them that night. Well, the next day, it took me 5 minutes to make soup because they were cooked. I just had to puree it, had the seasoning, and it was done. So it's been something that's helped me a lot that I've really just been doing more of in the last couple of weeks, of taking those little bits of time. Like if I know that I need this to be either used or done, just trying to like, even that 5 minutes counts. You know, I can use it wisely, then it takes a lot of the stress off later, because that waiting till last minute can be so overwhelming to me, you know, when I get to that point, because you're like, we gotta do soccer, we gotta go to do our homework, and you know, there's just so much going on that those little bits have really added up to me. I don't know if it would help you, but it did help me.
And I think having a food plan, like I know in my house, I'll be like, I'll have something and think I'm gonna use it, and turn around somebody else has already cooked it for something else, which I'm sure happens with your boys just randomly picking something up, and you're like, wait, I was gonna be for this. So like if you have a plan that everybody can see, like tomorrow's dinner's this, don't touch the green peppers, then like you're free to cook what you want, but don't do this. Then you can kind of like have a plan, and I do that a lot of times. Like I make a vegetable soup, and I'll spend the whole day, like when I get time, like chopping certain vegetables and putting them in little containers, so that by the time it's time to make it, like Jenny said, you just kind of like throw your stuff in, because you've already, any free seconds you have, you can do that. I think anytime you can cut out the panic of, oh no, we need to eat in a half an hour and be out the door in 35 minutes, like that's
It's not a good feeling.
not gonna work, you know, and that's not mindful eating.
Certainly not. I feel like you have some things to take away that you can work with.
Yeah, yeah. Must be getting more help.
I think it's great. I think it's excellent to empower the family in the kitchen, you know. And it can bring you all closer too.
And the clearing the table part, that doesn't require the stove, you know, if you're nursing, you get someone else to go clear the table, get some dishes out, you know, any little thing like that.
Yeah. And I have
problem
stay
is
there.
when you're good at it, it's better. It's
Yeah.
easier to do it yourself. And
I'm not,
faster.
but I'm not good at it.
But,
The cooking stuff, yeah.
yeah.
Well, then find somebody you know that one of them that you know is good at.
Guys, if you guys don't mind, we can continue the conversation and questions. If everybody's going to stick around for a while, we'll continue questions and conversations. And then Jess, if you want to just wrap it up, or if you're done.
I'm good.
Okay, then we'll have Sarah do the closing stuff, and then we'll just keep talking and eating and let the kids run loose and relax a little bit. Hold on, let Sarah do her.
So we definitely want to thank Jess for coming and sharing that information with us, and the Smiths for letting us meet at their house, and Matt for the music, and everybody for being here. And just to kind of pull it all together, and we want you all to stay for food. There's food over here, so please stay. I'm going to read a Tibetan prayer before a meal as the closing to the gathering today. I offer the essence of this food to the three precious jewels, the precious Buddha, the precious Dharma, the precious Sangha. Please bless this food that we may take it as a medicine with our minds free from attachment and desire. May it nourish our bodies so that we can work for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you guys again for being here, and enjoy some food.